Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's very emotional episode of Arrow. At the end of last week's episode, Sarah was killed and she was stabbed with three arrows, and the team is just finding out about her death, and it's horrible. Yeah, this was a tough episode. I think that they did a really good job of showing the emotion of all of the characters. Of course, we had Oliver's very minimal reaction and him trying to just go forward and try to find out who murdered Sarah. We had Laurel's extremely emotional, and I would honestly say her best work that I've seen so far on the 3 seasons of Arrow. And I'm happy about that because I've been very harsh about Laurel, and I still think that there's plenty of work she needs to do, but you can totally see them trying to start the transformation of Laurel into a far more determined, aggressive, she will stand up for herself and fight kind of character, and that's a good thing. Of course, Felicity took this death of Sarah very hard. And one of the things that I really liked about Felicity and Sarah pairing last season was they could have gone that typical, Felicity's jealous of Sarah because she knows that Oliver and her had a past. But instead, they made them bond, and Sarah helped Felicity and taught her some things. And, they had a good relationship, and they didn't go that typical, oh, well, mean girl type relationship or catty or any of that. So that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about that relationship. So to see her take it this hard was good to see because I know that Felicity really cared about Sarah. And of course, Diggle, devastated as well. And he even says at the end of the episode that he's going to name his new daughter after Sarah. So, they're all really showing that they're a family here. And, Oliver's not the only one who gets to carry the weight of her death, that they all do. And even Roy was really emotional, but, he was more like the strength around everybody. But this was a very good episode. I really liked it. And obviously, this drove home the point to Oliver that he needs to get his sister back home. And he spent most of the episode trying to get a hold of her, calling her. And Roy finally told him that he doesn't think that she's going to come back, that, he wanted to leave. They were supposed to leave together, but he stayed back to help Oliver, and then she took off. So he knows that she is just MIA, and they have no idea where she is. So now Oliver is definitely set out to find his sister and bring her back home. Of course, we had the case of the week this week, and it was another good case. And at first, the team thought that this man who was dressed like an arrow was the person that killed Sarah, but it wasn't. His name was LaCroix, and he was killing these men that were part of this oil pipeline deal, and he was hired by somebody else to do this. So, that was a very interesting character to bring in. And it was kind of like, they didn't want to have, I personally don't think they wanted to have something too heavy on top of the Sarah death. So, it was good that, Oliver was trying to take him down. At one point, they had this really awesome fight scene with their motorcycles, and LaCroix got the better of him. And this leads to this pretty good scene between Laurel and Oliver, where she's basically telling him, I'm going to do what it takes to get him because you couldn't do it the first time. And, we're really seeing Laurel step up and become a more fierce character, which is a good thing. And then, of course, we had some really cute, more lighthearted scenes with the new hire of Ray Palmer, who is taking over Queen Consolidated, and he's doing a whole bunch of renovations, and he basically bought out all these businesses that and so basically Felicity is employed by him, and she was trying to avoid that at all costs. And they have some cute little banter scenes going back and forth with one another, and obviously by the end of their conversation, she gets very emotional, and he's like, well, I know that this has nothing to do with me, but whatever it is that's going on, I'm sorry for whatever's happening with you. And you can see that these two are having quite a nice little bonding moment, and they definitely have some chemistry. And, this leads to another conversation that Felicity has with Oliver, where Oliver pretty much is down in the dumps, and she's basically saying, look, act like a human being, mourn the death of Sarah, it's okay. And he's like, I can't afford to, because if I, start to have emotions towards this, then I'm not going to be the one that everybody looks to solve this, and nobody else can mourn. And she's just like, you can be a human being in this moment. And he's like, I look at Sarah on that table and I just think that that's going to be me one day. And she basically says to him, listen, I don't want to be around like here if all you're going to think about is death, like that you're going to die. And this gives her the moment that we saw coming, where she's now going to go and work for Queen Consolidated under this new guy, Ray Palmer. So I'm sure that there is a budding romance that is going to happen there, which will ultimately create a three-way love triangle between Oliver, him, and Felicity. Hey, I'm not upset about that at all, but we'll see. Very interesting that at the end of the episode, we see Thea, doing some very good fighting scenes. And of course, who walks in? Malcolm Merlyn. And he's applauding his daughter, and she even has the words to say, thanks, Dad. Like, oh my God, what has happened? What has transpired over these last 5 months? We can only guess, right? So that'll be interesting to see what happens when Oliver finally comes face to face with his sister. So we also spent some time in Hong Kong. And in this episode, it was very interesting because Amanda Waller wanted Oliver to kill his best friend, Tommy. Now, Tommy apparently had gone to Hong Kong because Oliver tried to get into his email, and I guess this sent a trigger, and Tommy came a run-in to Hong Kong. And when Amanda found this out, she wanted Oliver to kill him. And Oliver's like, I'm not killing my best friend. So they come up with this crazy plan. They kidnap Tommy, and just to sort of let him believe that Oliver's really dead. And they get his father to pay some ransom amount to get him out of there. It didn't really give us that much information about these flashbacks, except for that Amanda is definitely a woman that you don't want to mess with, and she will stop at nothing to make sure that she gets Oliver in her clutches. And we all know from last week that she now has threatened the man who's with Oliver that if Oliver doesn't comply, she will kill his family. So we know that Oliver's not going to let that happen, and he's going to do whatever he can, I guess, to make Amanda happy, but without doing all the things that she technically wants him to do. So yeah, we had some flashbacks there, but ultimately, the main focus was about Sarah and her death. And there was a scene where Oliver even said to Laurel, look, you've got to tell your father what's going on, because Laurel doesn't want to let her father know that Sarah's dead until they find out who actually killed her. And Oliver's like, you can't do that to him. And so she goes to tell her father and ultimately can't do it. I kind of don't blame her, but it'll be interesting to see what happens when he ultimately does find out and who he is upset with. I have a feeling Laurel is going to take the brunt of that. So they do decide to bury Sarah in the grave that was already set up for her when they thought she died 7 years ago with Oliver Queen, when they drowned in the boat. I saw the tombstone and I'm like, 2007. I'm like, hello, it's 2014. I was like, oh, I see what you're doing here. And it was kind of creepy that they would bury her in the same place where they thought she had died before. But, it is what it is. When not everybody's going to know that she's died, because they didn't tell her mother either. So, yeah, hard episode for, the cast to do. But it was very good. I enjoyed it. I thought they hit on a lot of great points. And, Felicity deciding to go work over at Queen Consolidated because she wants more out of life was a good little turn for Felicity. The fact that Oliver turns to Diggle at the end of the episode and he says, I don't want to die down here. And Diggle basically says, then don't. And, that's bottom line. You can either choose to think that you're going to die at all times, or you can just live life. And we'll see what he does next. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode. I thought it was a great episode. I will definitely miss Sarah. I'm happy to see a little bit more of a transformation with Laurel. Seeing her hold up that leather jacket at the end of the episode, obviously hinting towards that she's going to, take on Sarah's persona. But yeah, I thought this was definitely one of Laurel's better episodes. All right, guys, let me know what you thought of this episode. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye.